Okay, so for those of you who have been with us all the way through, welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, if you are confused about how to compare financial aid award letters from the various colleges, you're not alone. Tonight, we're going to help take the guesswork out so that you can make the decision that's best for your education goals. So good evening and welcome to everyone on tonight's webinar. This is the fourth in a four-part series. Tonight we're talking about how to pay for college, and tonight we're specifically talking about comparing financial aid award letters. I'm your host, Kathy Hastings McDonald, Associate Director for Outreach for the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. And let's do a few housekeeping items while folks are still making their way into our virtual space. First, we welcome your questions. Please use the Q&A. I know a lot of you are used to Zoom and used to chatting away. We're going to ask you to use the Q&A so that way we can keep track of who's asking what and make sure that folks get their questions answered tonight. Second, we hope you'll share what you're learning on social media, help your friends and family learn about ways to pay for college too. Please use the hashtag CFNC so we can find you. And finally, we are recording tonight's session. We will post the session on the CFNC.org YouTube channel, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. So we know we've got some folks who sometimes like to go back and listen to the sessions again or listen to sessions that they haven't heard before. So I was going to field a poll, but my thing is not letting me do that. So we are going to come back to that later. Now, first, for you all who may not be familiar with who NCSEAA is, this webinar is brought to you by the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority, which is the state agency that helps North Carolina students plan and pay for their education. We're pleased to bring you the CFNC.org website where you can go for everything you need to know about the college going process, and in particular, all the different ways that you can get help paying for college. We're going to do a quick reminder of what we covered, mainly in the first session, but we touched on in the last two, is the three main ways to pay for college. The first is through family funds. The second is through financial aid, which you can see takes up a lot of that. Over 85% of students use some combination of federal, state, and college-based aid to pay for college. So financial aid is the biggest piece of the puzzle. But then there's also gap funding. So as we talk tonight about comparing financial aid award letters, we'll also circle a little bit back to that gap funding and some ideas there. So as you're mapping out your plan for paying for college, if there's still some gaps there, we can give you some idea of how to pay for that. So, okay. So let me go ahead and introduce the one, the only Tamika Ruffin, who I am so thrilled to welcome on our webinar tonight. Tamika is a CFNC representative with the College Foundation. And with that, I am gonna stop sharing. So Tamika, you can share. Welcome. I am so excited for you to help us figure out this confusing thing called financial aid award letters. And we're thrilled to have you here to be able to kind of demystify all of this for us. And with that, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Tamika Ruffin. I do work for CFNC, or College Foundation of North Carolina. I cover mainly the Charlotte, that part region of the state, but welcome, probably maybe have seen me in Charlotte or around somewhere around the state. So thank you for joining us this evening. We're talking, of course, about those offers. I know some of you are very anxious, especially if you're at that stage to get those. I wanted to do a quick sort of recap on last week's because obviously you'll have an option to go back and watch it on YouTube if you missed it. But I wanted to do a recap because it's so important in what we're going to be talking about this evening, which are the actual offers that you're getting from the schools. it is important that you guys make sure that you have a student aid report. Now, the student aid report should have been given to you either through your email, or some of you may have gotten a mail to you, but most is going to be to your email. So whatever email address you used on the FAFSA, you should have gotten a confirmation or student aid report. And that's really important because colleges are really going to use some of that data from that student aid report to make an offer to you. So I want to make sure that you're aware that you have that. Also, something very important number is on there. It's called an expected family contribution. We call it an EFC for short. So you'll see it circled over here. This is important because this is kind of a really important number for colleges, because that's what they're using to kind of decide like what you're going to be offered. And we'll talk about that more in depth. So I do want you to, if you know what your expected family contribution is, kind of keep that number in mind as we're talking about the stuff this evening. The other thing I want to make sure before we start looking at the offers is I do want to make sure that you have turned in all the documents that you need to turn into the colleges. What's so important and what some people don't understand is that you may not get an offer until those documents have been submitted. And so that's important for you to go back into that portal. So if at this stage, your students probably knows if they've been accepted, especially if it's a four-year school, they've been accepted. If it's a community college, you can automatically just kind of log into their portal once you've completed the application. But under there, they're going to have if you're missing documents. So you'll see over here, this is actually a snapshot of a student's portal that says that they're missing documents. Those documents typically are from the financial aid office, but they could be from admissions, and that could hold up your financial aid offer. So be sure that you check to make sure you turn in all those documents that they need for you to be able to get the offer that you're waiting for. Make sure you're not missing anything. So now let's talk about understanding the financial aid offer. So one of the things that is important to know, because the colleges are absolutely looking at this, is the cost of attendance. So I'm hoping at this stage of things, you have looked at how much it costs to go to those schools for a year. If you have not, this is where I want you to be sure that you know that, because that plays into, have I been offered enough? And how do you know if you've been offered enough? So the direct costs are going to be the things that you're going to get a bill for. And those are the most important things. If you know nothing else about the school, you know what the direct costs are. So the direct costs are going to be tuition and fees, okay? So the tuition and fees are your classes. If you're going to the community college, that's the only thing that you're really looking at are the tuition and fees. But if you're going to be living on a four-year college campus, then you also have to be sure that you understand what's the cost for room and meals. Now, most of you at this stage, probably if you're a senior, you've already signed up for housing or in the process of signing up for housing. Keep that number in mind that for the amount that you're going to place for the place that you're going to be staying on campus. So when you're going to a college's website, usually under their residence life or housing, however they have a title, they'll have a listing of all the different options to stay on campus. And then all those different places are going to have a different price tag. So it's going to be important that you understand what your room and what your meal costs are. So the direct costs are important because that's what you're going to get a bill for. The indirect costs that are associated with going to college are also what colleges consider when they're giving you that offer. So these are things like books and supplies. Obviously, if you're a student and you've been in high school up to this point, your books have been free. However, when you go to college, you do have to purchase those books. And so on average, probably students are spending about $500 to $800 per semester for books. It really depends on your major, though, and how many books you have to have for the classes that you're taking. But books and supplies are part of what you're trying to make sure you have enough to cover. The other thing is transportation. So let's say you're thinking about going to a four-year institution and you want to take your car. So at the four-year colleges, especially at the public colleges, you do have to purchase a parking decal. Most parking decals right now run between about $400 to $500 a year. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. So what is going to be my mode of transportation? Am I going to carry a car? If I'm going to take the car, keep in mind those decals. If you're going out of state, hopefully you're not, because we have so many wonderful schools here. But if you're going out of state, like what's the average cost for bus, plane, train tickets, right? To travel from this state to the state that you're going to. That's part of the transportation cost. Then the other thing you want to think about are personal and miscellaneous expenses. These are all the things that right now you share at home. So everybody shares common bathroom items. Everybody shares all the things for the laundry. The only thing the college is going to provide for you is a bed and a dresser, right? And a closet. Everything else you have to bring with you in order to be able to live day to day. So when colleges are considering your offer, they're also considering that you're going to have to purchase living things. So things like, all the things you use for the bathroom, towels, sheets, all of those type of things comes with living on a college campus. And then the other thing I want to mention is going to be possible health insurance. So all the four-year colleges require that if a student is living on a four-year college campus, they have to be covered under some type of health insurance. So as long as you're covered under some type of health insurance, there's no additional expense, right? You'll show them, they'll ask you for proof of insurance. You'll show them that, no additional expense. But if you are not covered under some type of health insurance and your plan is to live, again, on a college campus, the college will then charge you for their health insurance plan. So then it becomes a direct cost. So then when you pay for your tuition and fees, room and meals, you'll also have to pay for health insurance. Again, that's just for people who may not be covered under health insurance currently. So all of these things are things you want to keep in mind when it comes to going to college. What's my cost of attendance? How much money do I actually need? Now, all the colleges usually have a very detailed cost of attendance on their website. So when you go to a college's website, I always say the easiest thing to do is to go to their search bar and type in cost of attendance. When you do that, it will take you to that college's cost of attendance. So these are just some samples to show you what different cost of attendance may look like on the college's website. Some of them are broken down really well, so they'll give you estimates for all of the numbers, all of the things that I just discussed. But it's really important for you to know that, in particular for all the colleges that you're thinking about applying to, because again, that's what you're trying to hope that this offer is going to cover. It's all the items that are listed here for that college's cost of attendance. So again, just do a quick search for that on the college's website. Now, the other thing that the colleges are going to factor in is so they're going to have their cost of attendance, like what they have estimated it costs for a student, a full-time student to be there. When I mentioned before about you having that student aid report and knowing what your expected family contribution was, right? That number comes into play before they give you an offer. So what do they do with it? They take the cost of attendance for that college and they subtract what that expected family contribution number was on your student aid report. And then that tells them your family's financial need. So no, it doesn't tell you this is exactly what the college is going to offer you. But the main reason that colleges use this formula to kind of start making an offer to you is because they're trying to figure out what is your family's financial need, right? There are certain grant programs, you've heard a lot about those in the previous series, different scholarship programs. Some of the criteria for those programs says that the family has to have a financial need. And so how the colleges decide if you have a financial need is they put it into this formula. So you'll see an example on the right. So it costs $24,000 to go to the school. You're going to, your family filled out the FAFSA. It says that your expected family contribution was $8,000. The college is going to take their cost of attendance. They're going to subtract that number, that EFC number, and they're going to give you your financial need. That gives them their financial need for you. And so they're going to use that number to begin to start making you an offer. So that's why it's important to understand what was my EFC and how does it factor into what I'm being offered from the school, okay? So this is what once they kind of figure out, okay, we know the family's financial need, then the other thing they try to figure out then is, so what are we going to offer them? So again, hopefully you have listened to all the series that have led up to this point, so you know that these are the different types of financial aid that they're going to consider you for. So they're trying to put an offer together, and they're trying to put it together with scholarships and grants, which of course is money you don't want to pay back. So anytime you see these on an offer, you're going to smile, like put a big smile on, because that's money you don't have to pay back, are going to be those scholarships and grants. And then they're also going to consider you for work study. So some of you may remember on your FAFSA application, they may have asked you, would you like to be considered for work study? And work study is primarily just a part-time job they're trying to offer you. So when you get your offer letter, You actually may have work study on there as an offer to come to the school to have a part-time job. So that could be a part of your offer. The other thing that could be a part of your offer that most people don't consider to be an official offer is our loans, right? A lot of students would not have been able to go to school had they not had the option to be able to borrow money to help pay for school. So when you hear people say, I've applied for financial aid or my financial aid is paying for my college, it does not mean that all of the money is free. Some of that money is money that they are borrowing, and then they're going to be paying that money back when they graduate. So just keep in mind, when colleges start considering you for an offer, they're considering all of these things. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to be able to see that this is where the money is coming from. So federal, state, directly from the institution. And of course, hopefully you are also applying for some scholarships yourself. But this is what makes up your offer.
Tamika, before you dash on, because this is an area that I think confuses people and we're getting some questions about it.
Yes.
Why, what do families do if they don't agree with the expected family contribution that a college has decided they can contribute, which is confusing?
It is confusing, right? Because you're thinking like, how in the world did they come up with this number, right? You have to remember too, they're not really asking you about your monthly bills and things you have going out of your household. What they're basing that number off of is the income information that was reported. They also look to see how many people in your household are living off of that income. So they've asked you how many people are in your home. And currently they ask you about how many college students are in your home. So they also factor that into that number without necessarily considering what's going out. And they do have sort of a background formula that kind of takes out basic living needs. But for the most part, they are kind of doing the sort of a general overview of that. You usually, you can contact the financial aid office. I won't say that there's nothing that can be done, right? You can contact the financial aid office and maybe ask for a review just to kind of see, to make sure that the information that you put on your FAFSA was correct. And financial aid offices will do that. Like they'll go back in, look at your FAFSA and say, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Like your expected family contribution is what it is. I know it seems a little off base and that they haven't thought about anything that you have to go through, but there are some things behind the scenes of that form that you don't see, that they are taking out certain percentages of your income for. So, but you can, if you really feel strongly about it, you can contact the financial aid office and see if they can help you make sure that you entered in all the correct information on that.
Thanks. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. So the other part too, we were talking about the loans. I do want to make sure that you understand the loan portion because everybody's pretty clear on the free money, right? You understand scholarships and grants and maybe even the work study. But the question a lot of people have about is, okay, they're going to offer me a loan. I need to make sure I understand it. And we want to make sure that you understand what the loans are that you're being offered. So typically, what most schools are going to do is they're definitely going to include a student loan as a part of your offer. Currently, most community colleges do not participate in the loan program. So in most offers that you get from a community college, you will not see a loan on there. But with the four-year colleges, you will definitely see an offer for your student to take out a loan. There's two different types of student loans that can be offered. Most students get a combination of the two, but I want you to be able to see the names of them. So you'll be familiar when you get your offer letter that what are the names of these loans. So some of you, when you get your offer letter, you're going to see subsidized direct student loan. When you see that subsidized on there, that means that there's no interest accruing on that loan while your student is in school. So the interest doesn't start on that loan until the student graduates, right? Or is no longer enrolled at that institution. For all of the loan programs, students are going to have to sign a promissory note. So it's not like they offer you a loan and they make you take it, right? You agree that you want to take out this loan. They have you to sign a promissory note, basically promising that you're going to pay this money back. They typically usually have the payment set up for the loan to be paid off in 10 years. So you're agreeing that you're going to do that when you graduate. Students do have to be at least part-time. So as long as you're at least part-time, they'll allow you to take out the loans. The current interest rate on student loans right now are at 4.9%. It is fixed for the life of the loan for that year. So to not be too confusing with that, if they offer you a loan your very first year, right? And let's say that your interest rate that year is at 4.9%. For the life of that loan, that loan will be at 4.9%. But let's say your sophomore year, you decide to take out a different loan. Then the loan you take your sophomore year is going to be whatever interest rate that they have for that particular year. So a student could graduate, they could take out loans every year that they're in college. And for every year that they're in college, those loans will have a different interest rate as far as for what year that they took out the loan. But those rates will be fixed for the life, but they will be different every year if they start a new loan each year. The interest rates right now are 4.9. They do change every July 1st. So for the seniors out there right now, when you start in August, you'll want to be sure that you ask the financial aid office, what is the new interest rate? Because again, for this year, it's 4.9. It's going to change after July 1st. So be sure you ask them that. And then the other thing that you want to know about the loans, they do give you a grace period. So they don't expect that as soon as you graduate, you have to pay that money back. They do give you 6 months, and they call it sort of a 6-month grace period before you start having to make payments on the loans. So that's the subsidized loan. The other option they'll give you will be the same kind of criteria for the loan. The difference is the name of that other loan is called an unsubsidized direct student loan. There is interest accruing on that loan while your student is in school. So that means that as soon as that money, that loan money is dispersed to that student's account to pay the bill, it will start accruing interest. So everybody's going to be offered student loans to help pay their bill. Some of you may be subsidized, some of it may be unsubsidized. Again, most students have a combination of the two. We just wanted to be able to know clearly what the difference is. And again, we can't stress enough, again, you are being given this money to help pay a bill, but borrow only what you need. You know, that's when we do start getting problems with student loan debt, is when people borrow more than what they actually need to pay the bill. So definitely just borrow what you need to pay the bill. A lot of people ask, you know, what are the most that, you know, how much can a student borrow each year? There are kind of limits as far as how much a student can borrow. Their first year of college, currently what they have is that freshmen can borrow up to $5,500. So those loans are solely in the students' names. Their sophomore year, they can borrow up to $6,500. And their junior and senior years, or super senior years, they can borrow up to $7,500. And again, this is why I said most students are going to have a combination of the two, because although the student as a freshman, you can borrow up to $5,500, only up to $3,500 of that can be subsidized. So if you need the entire $5,500, a portion of it will be subsidized and a portion of it will be unsubsidized. So just to kind of give you an understanding of the loans, the loan limits that they allow. So again, that's for any school, whether or not it's in-state, out-of-state, public or private. These are the loan limits for students to be able to borrow. So let's kind of start breaking down the actual offers. So when most students get the offers, the colleges have gone through, they've looked at the cost of attendance, they've kind of subtracted what your expected family contribution is, they figured out your financial need, and now they're getting ready to tell you this is what we can offer you to come there. Just so we are clear, most financial offers, I know some people have been asking that, when do financial aid offers come? Most financial aid offers do not start really until about March or April. So if you are a senior right now and you're like, I haven't gotten my offer, where's my offer? If it's a four-year school, usually it's around March or April when you start getting the offers, so you're getting really close. And then community colleges, sometimes they don't send out their financial offers until around June or July. So there's maybe a little bit later, depending on the community college, but that's the timeline as far as when you can actually start seeing them. Now, when you get them, usually they're going to ask you to log on to a portal. There are some community colleges and some private schools that will mail a financial aid offer, but most schools today have students to log on to that college's portal, just like you see here. They'll click on financial aid information, they'll choose their academic year, right? And then that's where your offer will be. So again, this is going to be important for you to be sure that you are checking your student email or parent email. So when students filled out their admissions application, they had to put an email address on there. That's the email address where they're going to be sending notifications to that your offer is ready to view. So you'll be checking that email address, or you can just continuously log onto the portal to see if it's out there. But most students are logging in and they're checking the portal. I'm gonna give you a few kind of sample offers. So you can see these are actually real students' offers. So this is like an offer for community college, right? So community colleges typically have a cost of attendance usually between about $3,000 to $5,000 a year for a full-time student. You can see this student, they give a lot of information that's on here. They let the student know, of course, the different types of awards they've been offered on the left-hand side. So you'll be able to see the grants and the scholarships that they've been offered to the school. Something that's a little unique about community colleges sometimes is that they will also include summer. So what I want to mention, when you do get your financial offers from the colleges, they typically include just the fall and the spring. However, some schools, and mostly usually just community colleges, will also include the summer on there. So they're letting you know that if you would like to go to summer school, this is how much financial aid you'll have available to use for summer school. With the four-year colleges, when it comes to the summer, they typically have a separate application that you have to fill out in order to be offered aid for the summer. So the FAFSA that you did, if you're a senior, if you've already done it, that FAFSA will cover the summer, but they usually have a separate sort of summer application through the school because they're trying to see how much money they have left over, right, to offer you for the summer. But most offers are just going to have the fall and the spring. But this one does show like a summer amount that the student could possibly receive for the summer. So don't be surprised about that if your particular school does have sort of a summer amount there. But this is just to give you an idea. Obviously, this is if I'm the student, I'm smiling, right? Because I was offered a grant here, and all of the rest of the funds I were offered were scholarships. There are no loans because, again, this is a community college. So they didn't offer me any loans through this program, but they did offer me some different grant and scholarship opportunities. So now let's look at a public college offer. So the public colleges, obviously, their cost of attendance is a little bit different. Most public colleges, especially in state, are going to be about $20,000 to $23,000 a year for most state schools if a student is full-time and living on campus. This student that got this offer is planning to live on campus. They indicated they're planning to live on campus. They also indicated they're planning to be a full-time student. So the college gave them an offer to try to help cover all of those expenses that we talked about before. So you'll see, again, your main thing that you want to look for are those words, right? Because you want to make sure that you understand what's the money I have to pay back, what's the money that they're just offering me to help pay for school. So anytime you see the word grant, again, that's that free money. Obviously, again, they offer the student a loan. The student is a freshman, so they offer them that full $5,500. And then this is a scholarship opportunity they're offering them. So the student was able to see everything they were offered. The college is going to tell you the total amount that offer is for. And then you have the option to accept or decline, whatever you like. For this particular student, and they were right in doing this, they immediately accepted all the free money, but they're going to try to hold off a little longer before they accept the loans because they want to see if they're going to get any scholarships that they maybe have applied for outside of the school. And you have the option to do that. You also have the option to adjust your loan amounts. So even though the school offered them $3,500 in the subsidized loan, which remember that's a loan with no interest on it. If I only need $1,000 to pay the bill, then all I'm going to put in this accept column is $1,000. So yes, you've offered me $3,500, but I owe you $1,000. That's what I'm going to accept, to pay my bill. So do know you can make adjustments to the amount that they were offered, especially when it comes to the loan part. I also want you to be sure that you pay attention to the wording. So around most of the offers, they're going to have wording on there that says, so for this one, it says clearly at the top, if you decide to accept the loan, you'll need to fill out the separate loan application. So that's where you would go in and actually accept the loan, fill out the promissory note, which we talked about before. So most people are saying, well, how do I accept this loan? What else do I need to do? Most colleges are going to have wording around their offer to tell you what to do. So be sure you're reading any kind of small print that's either above or beneath the offer, because that's where they're explaining to you what you need to do. If there's any additional paperwork you need to do to accept what they've offered you. And then this is just a public, this is another public college offer. I wanted to show you this because what I'm aware of is that not everybody is going to qualify for need-based money. We talked about the formula that they use to decide how a family has a financial need. So there are going to be some families that may not get funds that are based on you having to have a financial need. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be offered any other free money. It really depends on the school, but it does mean that anything that has a financial need connected to it that says the family has to have a financial need, if your expected family contribution is more than what it costs to go to that school, then obviously you don't have a financial need according to the formula. And so you may not be offered any type of need-based money, right? And that's a lot of what the federal funds are based on. I will say that a lot of the federal funds do have that need component to it. But you still are going to be considered for that institution's money, which is again why we encourage everybody to do it, because you are still going to be considered for that institution's money. And you're also going to be still considered for your state's money. So this is just to show you kind of an offer of what it looks like for a student that did not have a financial need, but they filled out the FAFSA, and then this is what the college offered them to go to the school. So I wanted you to see kind of what that may look like. The reason why I'm showing you this student was offered all loans to go to the school. So the family was like, we weren't offered any financial aid. But remember, one of the financial aid terms that is being offered to you are loans. So loans are considered financial aid. So the student, this is their package. This is what they were offered to come here. So just be clear on that when you get them. And then this is to show you kind of, you have a question here, Kathy?
I do. So one of the folks was asking about scholarship displacement.
Yes.
I don't want to go too far down the weeds on that, but I think it is helpful to for folks to understand kind of the total cost. And if you get more money here, sometimes that displaces money someplace else.
Yes, and that's a perfect segue actually to this. This is wonderful.
Awesome.
I know, it's perfect. We were talking about the different wording that's going to be on some of the financial aid offers. One of the things that I kind of circled here on this private college offer was that the financial aid office does have the right to make any adjustments to an offer after they've received additional information. So that information could be if you are receiving a large amount of outside scholarships, and great for you if you are. That also includes if you decided that you're not going to live on campus now, maybe you're going to stay at home and go to that local four-year school. They can make adjustments because now they were basing your offer off of you being at home, you know, being on the campus and being a full-time student. But now you're living at home, that can make adjustments. If you decide that I thought I was going to be full-time, but now I'm going to be part-time, that could cause adjustments to your financial aid offer. So just know that yes, adjustments can be made to the financial aid offer. Most of the time with schools, and they usually have a priority list. If they take away anything, they definitely try to go for loans first. So that need-based loan, if you were offered that subsidized need-based loan, they try to go there first. They also will try to, you know, work study. I know for some students may be something they really want, but if it kind of puts you in jeopardy of losing any other type of scholarships or grant money, then they'll go to work study. And then they'll go to any type of smaller scholarships or grant programs if they have to get to that point. But yes, colleges can definitely, so you could definitely get a notice even after you've gotten your financial aid offer. If they get some updated information about you, you may get another email that says, check your portal. There's been an adjustment to your financial aid offer. But colleges try really hard not to take away any kind of free money they've offered you. But this is just to show you again a private school offer. Private schools definitely cost a little bit more. But one of the things I do want to show you though is that private schools do have that private funding. So sometimes their offers can look really good when it comes to the money that you're offered to go there. You'll see this student was offered different scholarships and grants to go here. And then obviously they were still offered the loans as well. So I wanted you to be able to see a private school offer or a private college offer so you can see what that looks like. And then this is just another private college offer, but this is for a family that doesn't have a financial need. So they weren't eligible for the federal grants. But again, remember, I said that they're still going to be considered for institutional money. So this student, even though they were not eligible for a financial need fund, so funds like, the Pell Grant or some of those other federal funds, they still were offered a good amount in scholarship money from that particular school, but they would not have been offered this had they not completed the FAFSA, which is why it's so important that even if you think that our income is this, so we're not going to qualify for this, you'll always want to fill it out because you just don't know what you're going to be offered through the process. And then also, again, here, they're also, of course, offering them the option for the students to take out loan money. So remember, just so you guys will be clear, be sure that you know your cost of attendance, right? So be sure that you understand what makes up the cost of attendance for your college. Also be sure that you're looking at what's a grant, what's a scholarship, what's work study, what's loans. Also look at all the disclaimers. So again, we were just talking about, that the financial aid office has the right to make adjustments. Read all of that they have to be a full-time student. This offer is based off of them living on campus. Pay attention to all of that. And then you'll want to be sure, of course, most colleges are going to ask you to report outside scholarship money, and it's usually required from the people that you get those scholarships from. They're usually going to send that money directly to the college. And so they'll ask you, and then some of the colleges will actually give you a space on the online portal where you can put in any outside scholarships you received. Again, also look for any kind of action steps. So do I need to fill out a promissory note if I'm going to take out this student loan? What other things are required for me to do? So look for action steps around those offers just to see if you have to fill out anything else. And then something else I want to be sure that I mention is that all colleges do have a satisfactory academic progress. So even though this is what we consider financial aid, there is a requirement in order to keep it. So all colleges have a process where you have to maintain a certain grade point average. Your students have to be completing a certain amount of hours. So a lot of times when students start to fall in trouble with how much money they've been offered to go to the schools, when they start dropping classes they don't like, that can mess up their financial aid offer if it drops them to a certain level and just a grade point average. So be sure that you know what is the satisfactory academic progress for this particular school, because again, there is a minimum GPA you have to maintain, and there's also a certain amount of hours you have to complete in order to continue to get it. So be sure that you look for that too. And then this is what you do, right? This is what you do when you get all your offers together. This is how you make really smart financial decisions when it comes to going to college. I kind of intentionally left all of this up here at the top so you can see that this is a simple Excel spreadsheet, nothing fancy, nothing special. All I did was create a spreadsheet. So what I typically like for students, especially if they apply to multiple schools, is I like for students to kind of list the different schools they will apply to and how much money they were offered. This is how you kind of get a visual of what a college has offered me versus what this college offered me. Because again, the offers are going to be in those individual college portals. The only way to really kind of compare everything is to kind of put it down so that you can see it. And so you can kind of use whatever language you like to. If you just want to put free money, you can put free money in this column. I wanted to kind of keep the terms consistent so that you can remember that what scholarships and grants and those different words, just so you can remember that. So this student kind of put down all the scholarship money they were offered from all the different schools. They put down the total amount of grant money they were offered from all the schools. They also listed how much, student loan money they may have been offered from all the schools. And then again, what I wanted to put right here in the middle of it all is, well, how much does it cost to go here? So that cost of attendance, I want you to have that front and center when you kind of have listed what your offer is. So I want you to have in there, how much does it cost to go to this school for the year? If you're planning to live on campus, that means like that full cost of attendance. How much does it cost for me to be able to go to this school for a year? And then I'm going to add up everything I've been offered. So any kind of financial aid I've been offered, I'm going to add that up. I'm also going to put on here a column. I would put in here a column of any kind of outside scholarship money received. So if you are, and I hope that you are applying for separate scholarships, that as you start to get the amounts, that you kind of remember what they are, so you can kind of include that in, okay, I have this amount of money to be able to use to help pay for college. And then I kind of added up everything on here. These are the total funds that are available for me to be able to pay for college based off of the financial aid offer they gave me and the outside scholarship money that I have so far. And then all I did right here is I subtracted that cost of attendance. I subtracted how much money I had available to use for college based on the financial aid offer of my scholarships. And then this tells me right here if I have to pay anything out of pocket. Did it cover everything? Do I still owe a balance? Like, what does that look like? So I do want you to be sure that you do this, because it really, again, gives you a visual. Let's just see what schools gave you some really good offers and what schools maybe you might want to think about, like, is it worth me going to this particular school if I get a better offer here? And then this, I also put in a line up here to show you what it would look like without student loans. I do know a lot of times students do want to try to go through this college process without taking out student loans. So what I did here is just took out the loans as a part of the offer. And then this is what the balance would be due though, if I decided that I'm not going to accept this $5,500 that was a part of my offer to come to school, which is the student loan amount. For some of you, I kind of put a separate column here for work study, because remember I said some of you may be offered work study, which would be amazing, which is like that part-time job. But a lot of times the work study money is not included as money to pay the bill. Usually the work study money is money that you earn as you go, right? So it's money that's just like a part-time job. Now you get paid every 2 weeks, once a month. So it's money that you would use as you go along. So I kind of put that separate from the total amount that I have available to use to pay my bill. But I do want to know about it, because I do want to know that if I have that part-time job option. So this is what I want you to look at. The other thing I want to kind of point out, the more offers you have, the more options you have to be able to make this thing work, right? What I like for students, especially if you're going to a four-year school, I like for students to apply to at least 3 to 5 different colleges. Definitely there are students who apply to 10 to 15 different colleges. And one of the main reasons why they do that is because they know that every single college is going to offer them something different, right? You see the offers for all of these schools were very different. And so that's why it's important to have options, because the more options you have, the more chance you have of doing this, and sometimes doing it debt-free. So just kind of having that as an option to be able to look at. So create you that Excel spreadsheet as you start to get those offers. And then this is what I kind of wanted to address really quickly about was kind of understanding, how do I fill in the gap? Because one of the things I just showed you was that this is still what this family or the student would have to be able to come up with in order to attend these schools, right? Because we subtracted everything they were offered. And for some of them, we still have a balance that was going to be due. So in order for you to be able to actually go to that school, you do have to have that balance paid before classes start. Most bills for colleges are going to come out around June or July. Usually they're typically after you register for classes at that college or university is typically when you're going to start getting a bill. So you'll get the offers around March or April. Most colleges will give you until May 1st to make a decision on whether or not you want to accept their offer or not. And then around June and July, you'll register for those classes, and then that's when you'll get the official bill. And usually the colleges would like to have that bill paid before classes start. And so they'll give you a day, usually around late July, early August, when the bills have to be due. And then this is the balance to show you, like, what am I going to have to pay? So how do people bridge that gap? So they're looking at the offers they got from the schools, and they still have a balance for some of the schools, but they're still considering those schools, right? So how do I cover that balance? And this is important to know, because Most families feel like, I just do this one thing. My student has to get a full scholarship or this is not going to work. Or my student has to get a full financial aid offer, or this is not going to work. There's different things families do to piece stuff together. The key thing I'm going to put over here on the left-hand side is that students are applying for individual scholarships, right? So they're applying for as many. So we talked about this before. If you have not watched the webinar from a couple of weeks ago about our scholarships, definitely go back and watch that so that your students are taking advantage of scholarship opportunities while they can. But if you don't have any scholarships, additional scholarship money to help pay the bill, obviously they'll take your out of pocket, right? They'll take that credit card, they'll take that check or whatever it is you want to pay. They'll absolutely take out of pocket if you want to pay out of pocket. The other thing though is this is also when people that have saved for college. So if you have a 529 plan or some type of college savings plan, this is when you use it now, right? Because you got the bill. And if you want to use some of that money to pay the bill, this is where it comes into play. Now, with most 529 plans or most college savings plans, you do want to give them at least 3 weeks or more before the bill is due so that they can actually pay the bill, right? So you have the option, it's your money. You'll be able to pull it out at that time if you want to use some of that college savings money to pay the bill. Some schools have it set up to do electronic transfers or they'll send you a check. But either way, you want to be sure that you give yourself at least 3 weeks before the bill is due to get that money out to pay a school bill. So they'll give the option to use this. Colleges also have a college payment plan. So all the colleges will have an option for you to be able to spread that payment out. So whatever that payment is that's due, you can spread it out between 5 to 10 months, 10 months typically being the longest, because that's usually the amount of the school year. There's no interest on the money, but you usually have to pay an enrollment fee. The enrollment fees for most college payment plans now are about $35 to $75, $80 to enroll in the payment plan, and then they'll spread out your balance over the school year. So that's an option if you are looking at a way to pay a bill. And then obviously, of course, colleges are also going to give you some private loan options because there's only so much, again, that students can borrow per year. But colleges do have a list of different sort of outside lenders that they kind of trust or they feel like a lot of students have used to pay a bill. And they'll give you a listing of different sort of outside lenders that will let your student borrow money to help pay a balance for school. So these are some of the options that the colleges for sure are going to give you to pay a balance.
Jumping in, I know you're going to be helping give them the details on some of these other options. Obviously, 529s is something we encourage families to invest in to kind of spread that over time. One of our listeners is looking to understand how they can use 529 funds to pay for things like books or housing.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
So, at this point, we'll contact you, whoever it is you have your college savings account with, hopefully it's 529, but whoever you have it with, you'll contact them and let them know that I have a student that's enrolled in college. As long as it's for college expenses, you can withdraw the money. So there are people, of course, that have students who are living off campus. So maybe their first year they were living on campus. Now they are grown, they think, and they're living off campus. So if you need money to pay rent, you can withdraw funds to pay rent. You can withdraw money to purchase books. They also have it to withdraw to pay for computers now. So you're able to withdraw it for that. But the people that are housing your college savings money will let you know the things that you can withdraw the money for. And usually in those instances, they'll cut you a check for the amount that you need to have withdrawn. And then, of course, then you can use it for whatever you need to, whether or not it's to pay for books or whatever those expenses are. So that's how you can get money out to not directly pay a bill, but maybe to pay some outside things that are not related directly to the college. It's a good question. And then one of the options that the colleges are going to give you, along with the other options, they're going to give parents, they're going to give you an option to take out a loan as well. So they do have a Parent Plus loan is what it's called. And this is a loan that's solely in the parent's name, right? So the student loans are solely in the student's name. They have a parent option for parents to be able to borrow money. There are no limits for parents. Aren't they nice to you, right? They just let you just whatever your little heart is content, you can borrow to help pay for school. But if you have a balance, you know, some of the balance I saw before for some of the schools, maybe it was $12,000 or $14,000. You can borrow a loan up to the amount of the cost of attendance to go there. So again, another reason why it's good to know that cost of attendance, because you can borrow as a parent up to the cost of attendance if you need to pay a bill for a student. And so as a parent, the difference between the parent loan and the student loan is that parents do have to go through a credit check process. So a parent could be approved or denied for a loan that you apply for as a parent. The interest rates currently for parent loans are at 7.5%. They have a 4.2 loan fee. What that loan fee means is that when you apply for the loan, they're going to take out about 4.2% of that for sort of processing and all of that kind of administrative stuff to process the parent loan. So that's what that 4.2% is. But the actual interest rate for the loan is at 7.5. And how you have the option to make payments as soon as that money pays to that college's bank account. They'll start sending you monthly repayment information, but you have the option to stop payments as long as your student is enrolled at least part-time. So if it's not in your budget right now to make payments on a parent loan, but you do need to take out a parent loan to pay a balance, you do have the option to defer the payments until that student is no longer enrolled at least part-time. Now, the interest will continue to accrue on that loan, but you will have the option to take out a parent loan and stop the payments by request.
Mika, I've seen some questions before. Michelle is asking about a particular place to get a loan, but obviously there's what you showed earlier from the feds, the
Yes.
subsidized, unsubsidized, and the Parent Plus.
Yeah.
There are state loans, which I know you're going to share a little bit about in a minute. And then there's also private loans through, you know, your local bank, Sallie Mae. You know, what's the difference between these options?
Yeah, that's a great question. We always do recommend that students definitely or parents go with the federal loan options first. In most cases, they're going to have the lower interest rates. You're going to be able to take advantage of rare situations that happened during the last pandemic, when there were no payments for a long period of time, but you had to have those federal loans for you to qualify for things like that. So we always recommend that people take out those federal loans first, because they do typically have the lower rates, and they work better with students for certain situations when it comes to repayment. But again, the colleges will also, if you kind of exhausted or the student needs additional loan money and you're trying to compare those sort of private loans, they usually have a list of that on the financial aid website that they usually will give you access to, so you can look at all of the different lenders. Their interest rates is really the key thing that you want to pay attention to, is their interest rates and what those things look like if I decided to take out a loan from one of these private sources. So you'll definitely be given sort of an option list to be able to compare that type of information. But definitely kind of look at that, and remember too that you do have this parent loan option, which is also a federal loan that you will have to be able to take advantage of as well. Sometimes though, parents do get denied that parent loan. So one of the things I do want to mention here is that there are lots of parents who have applied, or several parents who have applied, and they don't get approved for it for whatever reason. So if that's the case, this is really the only time that they will increase a student loan, is if a parent is denied a parent loan. So I want you to be able to see that these will now be the new total the student would be eligible for if you as a parent apply for the parent loan and they told you that you weren't approved for the parent loan. Then they'll say, well, we can go in and increase your student loan if you'd like us to do about $4,000. And then that's what they will do. It's usually an unsubsidized, so that means that there will be interest accruing on that additional loan money while they're in school. But these are the new limits that students are given if their parents apply for a parent loan and they're not approved for it. So I want you to be able to see what that looks like if you're not approved for a parent loan. And then, as Kathy mentioned to you before, North Carolina does have an assist loan program or private loan option for parents. Again, you'll see it on all the lists that you're going to get from the school, but I really want you to pay attention to some important things. I want you to pay attention to when you're comparing the loans will be obviously the rates, right? And what the loan fees are. You want to make sure that you're getting, for one, the lowest rate. And I like for lenders to be very straightforward about what their rates are. If you see a lender on a list and they have something that says variable rates or rates based off of your credit score, those are the ones I would be a little leery of, because why can't you just tell me what the rate is, right? Because you don't know what interest rate they're going to give you based off of your credit score. And you could think that you have a really good credit score and you get an interest rate and you're like, how did I get this interest rate? So I like for people to choose lenders that they're going to borrow with that are very straightforward about, this is what our interest rate is if you apply for this loan, so that you're clear on that. So pay attention to that. And then the other thing you want to pay attention to is, are there any loan fees? So remember, I was talking about with the parent loan, there's like a 4.2% fee that they use for sort of administrative processing fees. You want to pay attention to, are there loan fees? Like if I take out this loan, do I have to pay an administrative or processing fee? You want to compare those things. One of the things I do want to know right now, interest rates everywhere are not the greatest, right? But one of the things you'll want to see here is currently the North Carolina Assist loan, the interest rate is lower than the parent loan. So remember I said the parent loan was at 7.5. Currently, if you were to take out a loan through North Carolina's assisted program, it's at 6.2. So that's the kind of stuff I want you to keep in mind. What's the interest rate for the federal loans versus what's the interest rate for this private loan? What are the repayment options? All of those things come into play. If you're interested in learning more about the North Carolina Assist loan, definitely go to the website. You only had to have a North Carolina connection. So as long as you are either going to a college or university in North Carolina and you're a resident, or you're a North Carolina resident and you're going out of state, you can also use this loan out of state. You just have to have that connection to North Carolina. So if you're interested in learning more about this option, definitely visit ncassist.org. And then finally, one of the things I want to mention to you is that after you get these financial offers, life is going to life like it normally does, right? So there might be some things that you got in the offer, your student is now enrolled in their first year of college, and something happens in your family. So lots of different situations may happen. Maybe someone loses employment, maybe there's a divorce, maybe there's some kind of unusual medical expenses that come up. There's always an option for you to let the financial aid office know this. They have what they call special circumstances or professional judgment forms that you can fill out that will have them to reevaluate what they offered you when you first came to the school. So I don't want you to feel like, yes, I got this offer, I accepted it, so now I'm stuck with it. But you had all these things to happen in your life since you got that, definitely reach out to the financial aid office and let them know, because they can go in and see if there's any adjustments they can make to what you've been offered to go there.
Yeah, and I was actually working with a student where exactly that happened. They got their financial aid award letter, and then unexpectedly her father died. Now, luckily, she had already filled out the FAFSA, so she didn't have to go through that process in the middle of a heartbreaking time. But she
Yes.
was able to go back to the college and work with them, and they completely reworked her financial aid package as a result. So
Yeah.
great example. We're getting close on time. While folks are checking out all of the different tools that CFNC has, Deborah is asking, is there an income max for parents to be able to take out a Parent Plus loan?
That's a great question. And no, there's not an income max. Every student that's filled out the FAFSA, your parent, or is eligible to take out a parent loan. And sometimes it's not always a parent. It may be a grandparent sometimes, if that's the situation. But yes, they are eligible to take out a Parent Plus loan. Yes.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Well, thanks to everyone for the questions that were coming in the chat. We had some folks working behind the scenes to help you all get your questions answered. Tamika, if you don't mind sharing the kind of what's coming up so we can make sure we share those with folks. In particular for particularly our parents who are interested in going back to grad school or obtaining a postgraduate certificate. We are offering another session on March 2nd specifically for you all. And then I believe we also have some webinars coming up from our Spanish services team to help families both in making the most of their time in high school and for paying for college. Those will be fully in Spanish. So anybody who's needing assistance on that front. If any of you need help completing the FAFSA and you want to actually see somebody walk through it step by step, we did record a session from last November that is on the CFNC website. It's under the Pay for College FAFSA assistance section. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the videos. It's the first one there. And then I've been asked a lot, folks want to know if these sessions have been recorded, and they have. So on CFNC has their own YouTube channel. They set up a playlist for this How to Pay series, so you can catch out. The third one's loaded there now, and after tonight, we'll probably get it up on Monday. This fourth session will be loaded there as well. So with that, I just want to thank Tamika for all of the amazing ways you took a very complicated process and helped us understand. Some folks were asking about whether your spreadsheet will be shared. We will be sharing the slides so you can see an example of that. Thank you, Tamika, for helping all of us make
Yeah,
sense of a very complicated process.
thank you. And
We
hopefully
are
everybody's
Yeah, we are so grateful you all joined us tonight. Take care, and we will hopefully see y'all soon. Take care now.